Back here today with another video of the Twilight Imperium browser app series, and today I'm particularly excited for this video because we get to introduce the 7th faction into the app, which is the Yssaril Tribes, these little guys over here. So upon the first release of the app, we had 6 factions, so we can get some games going, and we're going to be implementing factions from here on in, one at a time. And in, I guess, the last month, we were focusing more on some bug fixes, including other cards that weren't yet included, adding some UI improvements. We've been going through some play tests with, I think, 3 groups now, and we've been getting some really good feedback. So thanks to those people, because without play testers, it's really difficult to figure out what people are happy with, what their pain points are in playing with the app. So it's been really great, and great. Also, just great people all around that I've been play testing with. It's really interesting to meet people from all different parts to see their Twilight Imperium perspectives. It's quite fun. So. But yeah, now that, we've kind of got a feel for what users are telling us, we just finished the Yssaril Tribes here, Yssaril. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it sometimes. We'll say Yssaril, I guess. But yeah, these guys were really fun to implement. So before we get into the game showcasing off their faction abilities and technologies, I want to just kind of go over the scope of it here. So I have the faction sheet open. And over here we can see there are 3 faction abilities. So first we have Stall Tactics, which pretty much is exactly as it says. It allows us to perform an action by discarding one of our action cards from our hand. So that's nice. And we have Scheming, where when we draw action cards, then we draw an additional one, as opposed to the regular amount that any other players would be drawing. And then we get to choose any card in our hand to discard from there. So a lot of flexibility there. And finally, we have Crafty, which gives us no limits to the amount of action cards we have in our hand. And furthermore, that game effects don't stop this. So there's an agenda where it reduces action cards to a maximum of 3, but this would not apply to the Yssaril Tribes. Don't have any specific unit text, but of course there's always the flagship. We'll get to that. The Yssaril, and it basically comes with the ability to act as if it has a built-in light wave deflector, so it can move through systems that contain other player ships. So that's really nice. I believe it's the only flagship with 2 movements, so quite unique in that case. So we'll be seeing that. Now the faction sheets don't show the technologies, so we'll jump into the game view here to see that. I have a pre-made game set up. So I'm playing from the perspective here, as you can see, of Alice as the Yssaril Tribes, and we can take a look at those technologies here. So what are they? Well, okay, we start with Neural Motivator, and then we have our 2 biotic techs from our faction. So the first one is the first tier tech, which is Transparing Steel plating, which is, well, it reads, during your turn of the action phase, players that have passed cannot play action cards. So that's a pretty nice card. So if other players in the game have passed, and say you're using something like flank speed when you're activating a system, those players can't sabotage. Furthermore, if you're in a combat with a player and it is you, the one who initiated the combat, then if that player has already passed, they can't play cards like Morale Boost or Shields Holding, Skilled Retreat, things of that nature, right? Notice how it has to be during the action phase, right? So you can't, this doesn't apply to the agenda phase, for example. So we'll see that come into play later. And then we have a really interesting one that was especially fun to code in, which is Magion implants. And this is usable as an action, so it's exhaustible. It's the 3-tier biotic tech. Then it reads action. Exhaust this card to look at another player's hand of action cards. Choose one of those cards and add it to your hand. So this is a really unique. If you're familiar with the game, there's an action card like this called Spy. But Spy is a little different because although it is an action, you draw the card at random. So you don't actually get to look at the player's hand, right? You actually get a huge amount of information doing this. It's quite an interesting card. Yeah, so those are the abilities, the technologies in the flagship. And we're going to jump into the game here and go through how these work. So if you look up here at the turn display, it's our turn as the Yssaril Tribes, and we're currently being asked to resolve the secondary of politics. So the secondary of politics, well, we can read it. It says, secondary ability, spend 1 token from your strategy pool to draw 2 action cards. So the first thing we would expect is, based on our faction ability, scheming, that we're going to actually draw 3 instead. And then we're going to choose to discard 1. And then we're going to also see how crafty comes in, that we don't actually have to reduce our action card hand to 7. So right now, if we look at our action card hand, we have these 5, and one more scroll through the deck shows an extra one, so we have 6, and we can confirm that in the player info tab. So you can see here we have 6. So upon drawing these cards, as we're going to do, we should get 3 to bring us to a total of 9. Then we'll be discarding 1 due to the faction ability of scheming. Right, so that'll bring us down from 9 to 8, and that'll keep us over the limit of 7 without having to discard any more. So let's do that. Let's see here. All right, so we're going to resolve. Yes, we want to resolve in politics secondary. Now you can see right here, we're being prompted to discard action cards. And this is kind of unique to the Yssaril Tribes because anytime they gain action cards, the game will automatically prompt them to discard a card, no matter how many they have, because it's just automatically part of their faction ability. So in the faction info tab, we're up to 9. Let's see, we got these 5 plus the 3 we just got. So we got to discard 1 and only 1, right? Other players, if they had 6 and gained 3, that'd bring them up to 9, so they'd have to discard 2. But we'll see that we only have to discard 1. So perhaps we can discard, let's say, morale boost here. So if we double click morale boost, we're automatically asked to confirm our choices because we only have to discard 1. So let's confirm that. So we discarded 1. And now we can see we have the 5 plus 6, 7, 8. So we're at 8. We're not being asked to discard anymore. And that's crafty and scheming right there, all in one step. Going over to the player info tab, here we are at 8. So a lot of action card power from this faction. All right, so the other players now, let's go ahead and pass here. Okay. All right, so that's politics done. And now, well, we're going to show off here the ability to use the first faction ability, which is stall tactics. So to use action cards during the perform an action step, you would double click something here like war effort, right? So if for example, if I double click war effort, then I'm playing the card. So you might wonder, okay, how do I discard the card, right? For example, I can't double click flank speed. That's not how it works. So typically what you do when you're trying to use technology cards is you actually just double click the technology card. So if we go over our technology deck and we, oh, sorry, Okay, I'm having a brain aneurysm. Like, not actually, but I'm thinking of this as a technology. It's a faction ability. So faction abilities, if I remember my own game here, are accessible through the blue icon here in your faction info tab. So if we click faction info, now we can see we have access to stall tactics here. So if we click use, we get a little scroll menu here of the card we want to use, right? So say we wanted to discard, not Ghost Ship. Which card did we say we wanted to discard? I believe it was War Effort, maybe? Yeah, let's discard War Effort. So if we go over to our faction info tab, we click use, scroll down to War Effort, click OK, and now we're asked to confirm to discard War Effort. We'll click confirm, and there we go. Stall tactics used. Let's go ahead and look at our action cards. Yep, and we're down to 7 now. War Effort is nowhere to be seen here. So we're down to 7. 7 in the player info tab. Now, just like any other phase of the game, we don't automatically end the turn because there's opportunities for trading and such. So we'll be asked to end our turn, and we will, and we'll pass. And let's go ahead and get the other players to pass in their turns. So the other players have now passed, and there's a new feature here where you can see in the player info tab, if you hover over this icon, you don't have to go searching through the game log anymore. You can just see here Bob and Charlie have passed, so that's good. And we're the only ones now, right? So stall tactics is usable as many times as you want, right? So we can perform stall tactics again. It's not just once per round, right? So if I wanted, I could discard another card here. Maybe I want to do economic initiative this time. Yeah, so in the game log, right, we can see both times we've used stall tactics. And we can keep doing that if we want. All right, so passing, and it'll come back to us. All right, so now let's see what happens for our first technology here. Transparing Steel plating. So during our turn of the action phase, players that have passed cannot play action cards. So say, we wanted to maybe use Ghost Ship, we wanted to get a destroyer into a wormhole. Okay, so maybe, we're all the way down here, maybe we want to get a destroyer up here. So let's do that. Let's activate Ghost Ship and confirm our choice. And let's see where Ghost Ship was used. There we go. Now, fortunately, the destroyer isn't showing up, so there's some sort of bug going on. But if I refresh the browser here, you'll probably see it. Oh, no, never mind. I'm being a silly person again. Of course, Ghost Ship, the destroyer, won't show up until all players have passed on sabotaging, which is the whole point of what I'm doing right now. So, yeah, it just shows you how complicated this game is and how the automation even helps me as a developer remember the rules, right? Like in the game, I put the destroyer down first, but of course, the action card doesn't get resolved until it doesn't get sabotaged. So yeah, we've chosen that system. And now, of course, The whole point here is we're trying to show off transparent steel plating, right? So in theory, anyone who has passed shouldn't be able to sabotage this. And we can see Bob and Charlie have both passed, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to log out of Alice's account here. And we're going to log into Bob's account to see what happens when he tries to sabotage from his perspective. Okay. So let's log in, bob at ti4.com. Log in here, and we'll go play. All right, so as we wait for the game to load in here, we can see we're in the perspective of Bob. And so Alice has played Ghost Ship, and the game is asking us to sabotage. So if we look at our action cards, we can see indeed we have a sabotage. So let's see what happens if we try to double click it. The game will ask us if we want to sabotage. And if we click yes, we'll be told that we cannot sabotage the component action card. The active player has researched transparent steel plating and you have passed. So the game prevents any other players who have passed from playing any action cards during Alice's turn here of the action phase. And so Bob has no choice but to pass here. Now there's still other, I suppose, things that could take place. But, you know, for now, the game will still ask them if they want to sabotage. So we'll log back into Alice's account, and we'll keep going here. Yeah, so now, as we wait for the game to load in here, now we can see, upon refreshing the board, there's the destroyer that has shown up. Right. So that's good. That's transparent steel plating. Okay. Right, now we got Magion implants to look at. So what is Magion implants? So here we can exhaust this as an action. And what we can do is look at another player's hand, and then we have to choose one of their action cards. So we'll end our turn first, and then it'll come right back to us. Okay. And now we'll activate Magion implants. And just like any other action card you want to activate, you double click it in your hand. So you double click it, we'll be brought to this little menu here where we choose by faction, which of the factions we want to take, and then it'll ask us to confirm. Before we confirm, let's see, who would be the better target. So Bob has 4, and Charlie has 2. So Bob has a little bit of a better selection pool. So we'll choose Bob here, which is the Emirates of Hakan. Let's do that. Okay, confirm. And now upon confirmation, we'll be told that we've activated Magion implants. And now we get this little pop-up screen that'll show us all of Bob's action cards. And there you can see all 4 of them. So he's got flank speed, he's got unexpected action, he's got mining initiative, and sabotage. Now, I guess one of the unavoidable features of the app as opposed to real life, if you're playing in real life, I guess you have to commit this to memory, like, oh, what does Bob have? But here, you have the option to obviously write these down or take a screenshot, which, is really unavoidable. Like in the app, in a real life game, people are going to get mad at you if you take out your phone and take a picture of the guy's hand. Considered bad form. But it's just something, I guess, a feature now if you're playing this online. Now, you have to pick a card and check it off. We could also close this to look at the board right now. and the game's prompting us to steal a card. Now, if you're wondering how to get back to that selection screen, that's what the help button's for. So if we read that, how do I choose which action card I want to steal? You can click the green check mark to bring up the list of action cards that your opponent has, and then when we select one, we'll be asked to confirm. So if we click the green check mark, we get this screen come back, which is nice. Now, if I try to steal none, I'll be told that it's an invalid selection. I have to choose exactly one. And that's indeed what Maggie on Implants is telling us. We've got to choose one, right? We have to. It's not you may. If we try to choose more than one, again, invalid selection. So looking at his hand, Sabotage is probably the most valuable action card. So maybe we'll take that. And then we'll be asked to confirm to steal Sabotage. And there you go. And you'll notice in the game log, all it tells us is that Alice played Maggie on Implants and chose to steal from Bob, because everything else is kind of private transaction between Alice and Bob. So we look at our hand now. There's one Sabotage, and there's the Sabotage over here that we just stole. So now we have 3 Sabotages. All right. Ending that, that's Maggie on Implants. So we've gone over so far the 3 faction abilities and the 2 faction texts. And that brings us to the last part of this video, which is the flagship. So we're playing with the black units, and all the way at the top here, you can see we have our beautiful looking flagship. Hovering over it, there it is, the Yssaril in all its glory. And we're going to showcase here how it's able to move through systems that contain other players' ships. So what do we have in this system? We have the flagship with move 2, we have a cruiser with this cruiser with move 2, and this cruiser with move 2. Now, you can see here that from the Welland system, if we wanted to get to the Theba system, there's only one way to do it. We have to go 1 and 2. Any other route is too long, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So there's no wormholes there. So unless we wanted to play flank speed to get around, you could do it. But let's say, we want to showcase off the flagship here. So let's see how the flagship works. I'm going to go ahead and activate the Theba system. All right. And we're not going to resolve any abilities here. So let's go ahead and pass. And now to move ships, right? And if you forget how to move ships, you can click the help button here. So access our ships. So the first thing let's try to do is if we selected all our ships, right? So the flagship and our 2 cruisers, well, that shouldn't be able to happen because we don't have light wave deflector. Right? If we go into technologies, the unknown technologies, light wave deflector is there. And furthermore, we don't have upgraded cruiser with 3 move. So this should fail because essentially what we're trying to do is take our 3 ships and move them straight through this system. It's the only way to get there. So if we confirm this, we're being told that we're moving 2 cruisers in the flagship. We got the invalid move order because 1 or more of our units doesn't have the value needed. And indeed, it is those 2 cruisers, right? So if we reset that, the only way to complete this movement is to just select the flagship. So let's do that and see that this indeed works. Selecting the flagship down here, confirm our movement. And all we're moving is the flagship here, so yes. And there we go. Board updated, and the Yssaril indeed was able to get through those 2 ships using its ability. So that's nice. And that's that's the Yssaril Tribes in terms of in the context of this app. There's another little feature besides the Yssaril Tribes here that I wasn't planning on making another video for, but got a nice recommendation that I think makes sense from one of our play testers, which is she felt like sometimes this zoomed in information, which can be good to see it all, especially when you want to see ship stats. Sometimes it can get distracting, especially if you're zoomed in on the board and you see like this big thing here. So this button right here, you can kind of see what it resembles, right? It resembles, hold on. You can see it's got the rectangular vertical shape, the horizontal shape, and then the hexagon here. So if you click it, it'll basically toggle the visibility there off. So it's a little, it kind of cleans up everything, right? It's a little less distracting if you just want to see the board in a naked view. And you can even toggle off the units for an even more bare bones type view. So yeah, it's kind of like just a way to focus in on one element of the game. And then you could always toggle it back on. And you get all that information back. So just a little note there. But yeah, that's faction Yssaril Tribes. So look forward to seeing them in the games to come in the near future. And yeah, if there's anything you notice that you feel it's not right in terms of the implementation, always love user feedback. So it drives the game. If you have any thoughts on who you think you'd like to see next, leave a comment down below. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and yeah, we'll see you next time. Take care.